Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This, of course, is another anime reaction video. Today, we are getting into some more Noragami. In the last two episodes, we didn't really establish sort of a main, overarching plotline, but that's fine. It was only the first two episodes. At the very least, we've been introduced to a really interesting world and a really interesting premise with all of these gods. Well, technically, we've only seen one god so far, that being our main man, the stray god Yato, who's very poor. But we learned a lot of interesting things about him. We were introduced, obviously, to Hiyori, and then in the second episode, we were introduced, sorry, can't speak, to Yato's new weapon, Yuki. So we've gotten introduced to the main three characters, so I imagine we're going to start going into more main plot lines, or at least introducing more characters that will be recurring throughout the rest of the series without necessarily being main characters, like some of the people we've seen in the openings. And I'm really excited to get into more of this show because we've obviously been introduced to the main three characters. We've been introduced to most of what I assume will be the main premise. I don't know if we're going to be expanding on it as we go forward. I imagine we will, but we've also been dropped little hints here and there about some potential revelations about certain characters we're going to have in the future, so that's going to be particularly exciting to get into in the future. So yeah, with that all being said, let's get straight into the next episode of Noragami, episode 3. As always, unless you're new here, links down in the description below will take you to the full-length uncut reaction, so you can go to one of those websites, watch the reaction, and then you can come back to YouTube to watch the discussion. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is a really fantastic episode. So real quick, elaborating on what I was saying earlier about how it reminded me of Ichigo. It reminded me of early Ichigo, in case you didn't watch Bleach or read Bleach or just like forgot. But very early on in Bleach, he was basically Ichigo was basically saying he can't promise to save everyone. He'll be willing to help people if he happens to be there when they're in trouble. But again, he can't promise to save everyone because that's really unrealistic, and so all he really wants to do is to protect the people he can hold in his arms, type thing. So that just kind of reminded me of Yato when he explained that. He just wants to protect the people that he can see because he knows he can't protect everybody. But I really enjoyed the kind of twist on what he was saying, because what Yato was saying, and I don't know if he like purposefully was really vague about his statement when he was saying that he didn't, because it very much comes off when he first said it as like, I don't give a shit if people want to kill themselves. It's pointless. But it's less of him being like an asshole saying if you want to kill yourself, whatever type thing, and more of there's not much we can do about it. Like, he'll try to protect them if he can, like if they're there, and he'll do whatever he can if he's there. But the idea of them killing themselves because they're possessed is kind of very upsetting to him, because he's a very goofy guy, but he very clearly cares about his regalia, even though he was kind of trying to act like really high and mighty with Yuki earlier, saying, I'm your master, you'll do whatever I want, it doesn't matter if I can barely afford to feed you. And even when he was feeding him a single sardine, when the cat stole it, because Yuki was being ungrateful and not eating it as soon as possible, despite being hungry. When Yato got it back from the cat, he just ate it anyway. So, until Hiyori came along, Yuki is supposedly left to starve. But even though it's less of a case that he doesn't want to treat his regalia properly, it's more of a case that he has a hard time doing so because of his financial situation. So I think Yato is despite being a very goofy and unreliable person due to his circumstances, is a very deep down, very caring guy. Very obviously he cares a lot about not only people, but about his tools of the trade, so to speak. Even though one of them ended up completely abandoning him for that fact. That's how you know she wasn't going to be a very reliable weapon to begin with. If because of that, she wasn't willing to ride it out and see if he were to become big and strong and popular. And to be fair, the manga's still ongoing, and there's no season 3 yet. So, who's to say if that'll ever happen? At least, we don't know if it's going to happen in the manga yet. But it's really interesting. I don't necessarily think there was any malicious intent when it came to Tenjin's like teasing of Yato. I think he just kind of knows it. But then again, they mentioned income equality is an issue for gods too, and I mentioned it like a while ago in the first two episode reactions. That it seemed almost like they were there was like a hierarchy of gods where the richer, more popular gods sort of take the piss out of the smaller gods, and that's definitely what's going on here. Whether or not it's malicious intent, and whether or not this is supposed to be just like a comedic scene, supposed to be laughing at, it was funny, but just knowing that of how kind of shitty Yato's life is, and how it's seemingly he gets no help from anybody, not even the gods, the other gods. Just kind of makes me dislike Tenjin so far, because he's just kind of a dick. So that's just something I think. Okay, so the second season of Noragami finished airing December 2015. So that means it will have been 6 years since season 2 of Noragami ended this December. It's already been 5 years. Honestly, I'm sure it has potential. If it's popular enough, I'm sure it'll eventually get a season 3. And I mean, the manga's still ongoing. They probably have plenty of material. And weirder things have happened in the the anime industry. Fucking Full Metal Alchemist got a remake. So did Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter, the 1999 anime, it had a remake that continued after the anime. The original 1999 anime ended, what, like 12 years, like between 1999 and the 2011 version. Full Metal Alchemist, it was like 2003 to 2012, I think. So that's like, what, 9 years? Fucking Devil's a Part-Timer took 8 years to get a second season, though I'm willing to bet it might not get a third season, just because I imagine the second season was only greenlit because it's trying to boost the sales for the light novel, because it ended last year, I think. But I mean, hey, Bleach is also getting a new anime after 8 or 9 years. That's continuing the story. Weirder things has happened. You might argue Bleach is even more popular than Noragami, but still, I think it's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibilities yet. It's only been 5 or 6 years since it ended, but I really hope it does, because I'm so far really enjoying it. So that's about all I wanted to say about this episode, I think. So yeah, let's get into the next episode. Episode 4, Season 1 of Noragami. So definitely getting a lot of dysfunctional family vibes from all of the people, which I love. I always loved that. And that family is not always something that's like a clear cut, because it's really nice that even though people aren't always like the greatest, or even though they don't always get along, they still have a close bond. I love that kind of thing in a media. It's always a lot of fun. But real quick, I want to check something out. Oh, do I recognize who? Is it who I think it is? Oh, yo. Okay, so it's not who I thought it was. When I saw the name Aki Toyosaki, I thought it was the voice actress for False Philite from the Land of the Lustrous anime, but it's not. It's fucking Yui Hirasawa from K-On! K-On's one of my favorite animes of all time, and she shares a voice with Kofuku Ebisu. That's alright. That's cool. I immediately love Ebisu a lot more. I was starting to dislike her for basically ruining that guy's life just because she was being a runaway child. Petulant is definitely a very good word to describe Kofuku's personality right now. That being, she's a very free-spirited, let's say. But I mean, it's kind of fun seeing what she's up to. Kind of ruin a guy's life, but she's entertaining for the most part. She's really interesting because she knows a lot about Yato and clearly has somewhat of a high opinion of him. So it'll be interesting to see what she does in the future. And what was really standoutish about this episode was all of the things they were giving us about Yato, which I was not expecting. I thought that was going to be later in the story, but we're we are getting it. I thought we were gonna spend some more time just getting to know other, gods or regalias that sort of populate this world, but we're getting more Yato straight off the bat. Even though it probably, well, obviously it can't conclude his character arc so soon. That's got to be for the rest of the series, even after season 2. But it's just so interesting that we're getting so much of about Yato this early on. Not only are we learning that he's a very dangerous god of war, which I didn't point out earlier, but now that does make sense. They mentioned or maybe it was him himself. He's mentioned he's a god of war. And so the fact that it was whether or not maybe it was episode 1, maybe it was episode 2, but when he was cleaning that guy's bathroom when he was walking away, why is a god of war doing this stuff for chump change? I remember that line. And yeah, so he was a god of war. That's so interesting. And to be fair, I haven't actually gotten to learn the complete and total past of Gintoki yet, but it sort of reminds me of what they were setting up in Gintama, the similar sort of thing where this goofball who's seemingly really useless used to be a super powerful warrior that used to cut down so many people, but sort of at some point, for some reason, they sort of mellowed out. And it's going to be really interesting to see the reason why in in Yato's for Yato's reason for it being like that. For one thing, let me see if I can find it again, because there was a shot. Yeah, here we go. I don't know who the fuck that is, but there's somebody behind him. He knew somebody back in the day, and it wasn't Nora, which we just met. And I can't put my finger on who it might be if they're from the opening. Maybe it's a lady with the hat and the guns and the whip, because she is the only one we've really seen him fighting in the opening. From just like skimming through the opening again, there's a lot of different people. We've seen Nora back when Yato looked different, had longer hair, and the only one we've really seen in the opening fighting is Gun Lady. So I don't think, maybe it's her, maybe it's not, but whoever it is, it's going to be interesting to see how their past sort of intertwines with Yato's past, and how exactly they've changed over the years, because that was always one of the most interesting things when I was watching interactions between Gintoki Katsura and Takasugi. It's just seeing how different they are despite being close in the past and having coming from the same upbringing type thing. And the fact that we're introduced to Nora now, that's my prediction. The glow around her and like the short interactions we've seen between Yato and Nora. What if the other person in that shot was named Gami? I'm just waiting for someone to be named Gami. Someone's got to be named Gami, or else it's gonna be a real letdown if we don't get Nora and Gami. You know what I mean? But I can already tell lots of people, at the very least, the people that ship Yato and Hiyori, their first piece of evidence, or at least one of their strongest pieces of evidence from the early bits of season 1, is Hiyori being the only person to bring up the way Yato smells and talk about it in a positive light. Beginning of first episode, hands are too sweaty, you smell disgusting, by Tomone or Mayu, I think now. And then episode 2, I'm pretty sure, Yuki was commenting about how he smells like sweat. I don't think anybody brought it up in episode 3, but episode 4, first time anybody ever positively talks about the way Yato smells. It's Hiyori. I can see it now. I don't know what the ship names are, but that's where it started. That's gotta be where a lot of it started. But that's pretty much all I had to say about this episode. As I was saying, this episode was amazing. These 2 episodes in general were amazing. Loved them very much. Can't wait to see more of this series. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload in the future. Thank you for watching. Peace.